All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Generation Wealth. And we have a very special guest today because if you guys were at the Self-Made Summit in November, you were there when we did our first investors pitch party. And as you know, it takes so long to wrap all of these things for events, if you guys have done events, but we actually have our grant winner, who is the founder of I Kicked Sugar. And I already told her, I'm not going to try to say her last name, but I'd like to welcome Joyce to the podcast.
Thank you, Candy. I am so excited to be here.
So glad to have
Thank you for this opportunity.
Of course. Yeah. And so if you were at Self-Made Summit, you'll see that we actually did an investor pitch party where we chose, I actually didn't, the other investors chose 5 people of all the submissions to come on stage and pitch what their business is and what they would use the money for. And the investors, again, not without me because I was running an event, chose that Joyce would be the best person because we felt you already had your primary business model intact. You already kind of knew what avatar you wanted for that product.
Yes.
And we felt by just giving you the grant money, you would be able to gather more leads and have a greater return on our money than maybe some of the other people that weren't quite there yet.
Right.
So just congratulations again on winning. It's obviously a big deal. You saw there was a lot of great people that had great businesses. And if you guys weren't there, they literally had to come up and pitch live on stage with hundreds of people watching and thousands at home. And Joyce brought the energy. Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, we could see people shaking, their hands shaking.
I think that was me. I was afraid when I was going to hand you back the microphone, it was going to slip out of your hand. It was so wet from sweat.
But you did a great job. And we really loved what you do. And that's why I wanted to just kind of bring you on too, to have more people exposed to what it is that you do. Because as somebody who believes that health is an incredible, huge part of building wealth and having success. So I think the saying is, a person that has great health has many desires, but a person with bad health has one desire, and that's to be healthy. So I think there's a lot of connection with health and wealth. And
totally.
I think that one of the things that's truly ruining humans and disease and just kind of like running rampant in our systems and not realizing it is refined sugars.
Yes.
And you created something, obviously, through your experience of wanting to kick sugar, which is why it's called I Kicked Sugar. And you're helping many, many women and other people get free of that addiction. Because truly, that's what it is. It rewires our brain. So can you share a little bit about who you were before you kicked sugar and what put you on the path to figure out how to actually get rid of it for all?
Yeah, definitely. I struggled my entire life with sugar. I mean, from early childhood.
Did you have a weight issue?
I didn't struggle as much with weight until I was older. So you wouldn't notice it when I was younger. But boy, did I eat a lot of sugar. That's all I craved, and very different from my sister, who actually ended up being, in her early 20s, a type 1 diabetic.
Oh, wow.
She did not have the sugar cravings like I had.
Wow.
For example, I would beg my mom to always every week go food shopping with her because I wanted to make sure that something, sugary got in that shopping cart. And I was that kid making a stink at the store, like kicking and screaming on the floor saying, you've got to get me, these Cheerios, these Apple Jacks, Hawaiian Punch, ring dings, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I needed something. And, just to shut me up, she was so embarrassed, she would buy it for me. But she really was pretty much a healthy mom, as healthy as she knew she could be. We did have vegetables at every meal. She wanted to try and stay away from soda, even though I begged for the soda. She didn't like white bread. She wanted wheat bread. And I wanted the Wonder White bread. That was another item that made it into the shopping cart from all of my kicking and screaming. So it was very different. And I can look back, all of my childhood and adult memories revolve around sugar. It isn't like when I think about Disneyland, our yearly trips to Disneyland, it isn't that, oh my gosh, Space Mountain. The first thought in my head is, oh my gosh, Main Street, the candy store, the fudge, fudge from there, the root beer stick, candy canes, it was always Mickey Mouse, ice cream ears, you name it. Every holiday, every celebration revolved around sugar through my entire life.
Where do you think that stemmed from? Did you ever look back and do the work to see where that came from?
Yeah, well, there definitely is. There is, you are born with a sugar sensitivity. Okay. So, you can have a spectrum. So when I look at my son now, who's 17, he could care less about sugar. I never understood it. I cared more about trick-or-treating for him from the age of 1 to 5 than he did. And I'm the one who ate his candy, not him. So very different. So there is something called sugar sensitivity. And so people are definitely genetically more predisposed to having that addiction and signals. But, right now we are living in such a society where sugar is rampant in everything. Over 80% of supermarket products are laden with sugar. That wasn't there 50 years ago. And you can very easily connect and see the graphs when you look at the charts from right now. We're suffering with an obesity and type 2 diabetes epidemic here in America. And it is correlated and connected to sugar and the sugar industry's push of sugar in everything over the last 50 years. So it's really about, learning to read labels, understanding, that what is it that you're eating? It wasn't that 50 years ago sugar was necessarily even so bad, but the way manufacturers have manipulated sugar, right? The processing is what it really is. And it is boiled down to now this chemical. There's over 61 different names of sugar. So, you don't even know what to look for when you're looking at a label. They're trying to trick and disguise it inside the ingredients. And, there could be 5 different sugars and you don't know it and you don't even realize it.
And I think this is so important because I have forever been on a journey to be healthy. Like from my early 20s, but very much like yours, but in a complete reverse. My parents were teenagers. I grew up in a trailer on government assistance. So my mom didn't really know about food. Like she was 16, 19. Like what do we really know when we're that age, right?
Yeah.
So I grew up pizza, Diet Pepsi every morning. Like talk not only sugar, but now we've got aspartame. Right. Ho-Hos after school. I would get dropped off in my dad's garage. So I was having Reese cups. Like this was right? This was and for most kids, this was like a dream.
Right.
But what I didn't realize was how unhealthy I was eating until I was in my 20s and being exposed to like all of the stuff that really makes us sick.
Yes.
And I watched my grandmother die young. I watched my grandfather. So I saw a lot of people die young, and I started really obsessing about how do we eat better to live more?
Yeah.
And so I'm from this frame of mind now that it's food is truly fuel.
It is.
It's either going to make you healthier or make you sick. And we either take the time to learn what you're talking about now, or we've got to take the time later in order to get healthy.
Yes.
And so I think it's really important. I also think that the U.S., what we're doing in food compared to Europe and all these other countries, is
dramatically
insane. Like ketchup, right? Yes. Like when I was in England, I was like, how are all these people drinking beer and eating fish and chips and they still look skinny, and yet over here, what's in their food? It's so different.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about, because I know people hear sugar, and not everybody knows this, but there are different types of sugar. Not to say any of them are healthy, but there are healthier types. Can you give us maybe just a couple quick tips of what someone could do now to maybe start to shift to maybe get away from those cravings?
Yeah, definitely. So what I'm talking about when I say I kick sugar, first of all, I kicked the addiction. People are like, oh, you must live such a deprived life. You're such a militant eater now. And no, I live in abundance now, with it. Fruit, first of all, is a naturally occurring sugar. So fruit, when eaten whole, okay, not to be mistaken with having fruit juice like apple juice or orange juice, but fruit whole is packed with vitamins, minerals, water, and all these nutrients in there. So it's fantastic. And it will fill you up one apple. You don't have to have 5 apples in a juice, to get the same, right, with double, the sugar content.
It's so different, guys. Like so different eating an apple and having apple juice. The way, can you tell us what our body does with apple juice as opposed to eating an apple?
Yeah. So, apple juice, to make that same cup, like that cup of apple juice, you've got to extract the sugar of about, and I'm not completely accurate on the dimensions here, but 5 apples. Okay. So you are getting like triple amount. 1 glass of apple juice could have, 30 grams of sugar in it versus then, having just the apple, and you're stripping away, you're just taking out the sugar. So you might as well just be injecting it, right, exactly, into your arm. It's just going straight into your bloodstream, that sugar, versus eating that whole apple. You're getting a fraction of the amount of sugar. And like you said, it's packed with fiber to slow down that sugar, that glucose going into your body. So it's a slow absorption. And you've got the minerals, and you've got the vitamins in there, and you've got the water. So you're getting full from that apple, where the orange juice or the apple juice, you're just slugging it down. So you're getting a high concentration of sugar. So stay away. Don't feed it to your kids. And those little juice boxes are horrible. Horrible.
Oh, and we're even talking about assuming that it's healthy
Right.
orange juice or apple juice, but
Right.
there's so many that are from concentrate. And
Yes.
like, did you see the Simple Orange thing that was just on the news
no,
recently?
no.
Oh my gosh. So they were Simple Orange. Anyone that drinks Simply Orange is, I
Yes.
think, what it's called. Yes, Simply Orange.
Okay.
Sean's nodding his head. We want to, you know which one I'm talking about, right?
I do.
Can you pull it up? So Sean's going to pull it up. So I think there was 60, because I don't want to quote it wrong. I believe there were 60 different chemicals
Oh, yes.
in Simply Orange, and we'll make sure to fact checked everything that we talk about on the show. So but it's like people don't realize, they think shiny marketing, and it does. It has a beautiful box.
Right.
It's like a beautiful
Of
plastic
course.
container.
It's all in the branding.
Oh my gosh. And it's like, it's making us not only the sugar, but all of the chemicals that they're putting in it is really making it so unhealthy. Here we go.
Tropical.
Simply Tropical Orange Juice.
Has
High toxic what even is that? PFHS, what, 8?
The rule I teach my ladies in my course is, if you don't know what the ingredient is
right.
and you can't pronounce it, don't eat it.
That's right, yeah.
You know, and limit that label to about 6 ingredients. You know, when you've got a label list, an ingredient list that's long, 40 ingredients, that's danger right there.
Yeah.
That should be stay away for sure.
So I know people are listening and they're going to say, this all sounds great in context, but like, I have kids, I have a business, I'm busy. How can I implement this in my life day to day?
Yeah. So it's a process for sure, and it starts by making a decision. So you asked me earlier how I then kicked sugar. And the biggest thing was, I was at my bottom of, my lowest low, that bathroom story, where you're on the floor and you're just praying to God, just please, if I can just quick hit sugar.
Was it you were feeling a certain way or a weight?
Constantly.
Okay.
Yeah.
What caused you to go on the bathroom floor?
Yeah. So and it was actually the kitchen floor.
Okay.
But I've heard a lot about
Let's paint the picture.
I think Eat, Pray, Love was the bathroom floor. But no, like I suffered tremendously with weight. At one point, I was 186 pounds overweight. That's 67 pounds overweight I'm a small frame. I shouldn't be 186 pounds. That's a lot. I suffered with fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver, which is huge right now. Even in kids that are 5, 8 years old are getting this. This is wrong. This didn't even happen, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. This wasn't diagnosed. I suffered with massive depression and anxiety, chronic yeast infections and sinus infections, all due to sugar, and so that was the main culprit, was the food that I was eating, but the sugar that was there. And I had tried many times quitting, and every time, I did it with just willpower. And, after a week, 2 weeks, I caved and I went back to something. I had a craving. I couldn't control it anymore. My willpower just wore out. And bottom line is, you can't do it with willpower. Willpower and diets don't work. Neither one of them work. And so you have to make a decision. And that's really the secret to this and what I teach in the course. And so when I got to that lowest of low points and I was talking to myself and journaling a lot, saying, no, this time it's going to be different. I'm going to do it. No, I really can't do it. And this voice came through me and said, you can do it. And you did it years ago. And you did it with choosing to go vegetarian. So I've been plant-based vegetarian for over 30 years
I didn't know
Yes,
that.
we have something in common. I actually used to work for PETA, People for the
get
Ethical
out.
Treatment of Animals.
I did not know that.
Yes, huge animal rights activist. And that is why I became, plant-based and vegetarian. For 4 of those years, I was vegan. Right now, I hate to say I've labeled myself and put myself in so many boxes through the years. That's one thing now at 52 I've learned not to do. I love just saying I'm predominantly plant-based.
Yeah.
That doesn't say, allows me then if I want, occasionally if I'm out, I have maybe a piece of salmon. Sometimes I will have eggs. I do like a lot of egg whites. I'll have a little bit of hard cheese. And then I go through months where I don't have any of that. And it's like, so what am I? I don't know. You don't have to put a label on it.
Yep.
Just eat healthy, real whole food, predominantly plant-based. The science and the evidence is there. Plant-based, staying away from animal products is healthier. And so, I did it though. I chose to do that for ethical reasons. Back in my 20s, I could care less about my health, and I ate sugar. I was an unhealthy vegan,
So many of those.
So many. I had soda.
Gosh.
I had Doritos.
Yes.
I went to McDonald's and I ordered a hamburger without the burger.
Yeah.
They're like, what's that?
Oh my God.
White
Back
bread.
in the day,
Oh,
I used
yeah.
to have, so there was this place, anyone that's from the East Coast, it's like a big gas station, but they started making food. And they're actually infamous. I actually love this company because it's created by a family. It's privately owned, the Sheets family. So like sheets on a bed, but they have a Z on the end of their name. And they created the MTO, made to order. And it was before the Subway craze and everybody where you could walk in and make I'm really dated. Pennsylvania calls them hoagies, like a sub, like a sandwich, a sub sandwich. You know what I mean, Sean? And so, but they started with hot dogs in this college town. We're really going on a tangent here, but I love this company story too. They started where there was demand in a college town, and they sold 2 hot dogs for $1. But then they didn't make any money. They lost money, but they knew if they can get the college kids in there, they would buy pop and soda and all this other stuff, right? Chips. So when I started, there was one in my town where I started my first business. And one of my employees would go over and she'd be like, "Do you want anything from Sheets?" And it was always a joke because everyone knew that this was my order. I want 2 hot dogs with sauerkraut and ketchup, but no hot dog. So I would have the hot dog bun, sauerkraut, and ketchup. So you just took me a flashback to like 25 years ago when I would order those. And talk about garbage.
Yes.
We were eating white processed bread with a little bit of sauerkraut, which is actually good. But then the sugar-laden ketchup.
Yes.
So back to the question, how do people do this at home? And I love what you said, you got to decide. Because I always say, business, anything you want to do, we can motivate you. You can get all the inspiration in the world. But if you don't decide, if you don't take the idea and decide to apply it in your life will never be different or changed from this podcast, this conversation, or anything else that you hear. So first, it's a decision, almost like addiction, right? When you're addicted to alcohol or drugs or sex or anything else that people are addicted to, they first make a decision, no more. So let's say someone's listening and they're like, okay, I need to take the first steps towards this. What are their next moves?
Yeah. So after they make a decision, right, which is then to cut off all other choices, which is very freeing, right there you will find and step into food freedom. And to make that decision, it has to come from a place of integrity and authenticity. You have to have a purpose and a reason, a foundation. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to do it. It shouldn't be that I can't eat sugar, I shouldn't eat sugar. That's what we do when we're on a diet. It comes to the place where I don't eat sugar. So you are the one now who is empowered by making that decision yourself. It's not being put on you for any reason. So therefore—
hang on. I got to stop you there because that's a good change. This is why when we say things to our mind, the words that we say are so important.
Powerful.
I don't drink. It's not that I can't drink.
Exactly.
I don't drink. And there are times that I do drink, but most of the time, like you're saying, I don't drink.
Same here.
When you say you can't, that restriction in our mind, we already then want to.
Oh, you just keep obsessing over it.
Right.
You can't stop. I mean, you tell the little kid, don't touch the hot stove. You can't touch it. What do you do?
I'm going to touch it,
Don't go into the liquor cabinet, to the teenagers, and they're going into the liquor.
Don't date that guy, and then everybody wants to date him.
Exactly. Right, right. So
I think that's important, right? It's like, I want to be healthy.
Huge distinction.
So I am not going to eat sugar.
Exactly. It has to come from that place of power. And I really show this by letting women know, people know in the course that they do this all the time. They don't even realize that they already hold this power. Like so many, observe Lent for religious purposes. And they're making that choice. You have to have a purpose, a why behind also your decision. And so for me, when I decided that I don't eat meat, over 30 years ago, it was a decision. I have never looked back. I have never had a piece of red meat since that. It has never even been a challenge in my mind.
Right.
And so I was able to make that correlation and see that I have done that already. There are plenty of areas in your life where you've done that. And it's like because you had a purpose, and a belief system and a philosophy behind your reasoning and your decision to empower you forward and propel you forward. So once you make that, then everything else is really easy. Then it's about shopping the perimeter. It's learning to start bringing in real whole food and to start changing those, unhealthy habits to healthy habits. And like you said, the key thing here is mindset, because any addiction, it revolves around two things to solve. And one is mental, the mental side and the physical side. So the physical side of addiction is very real. Like we talked about, that there is a sugar sensitivity there, alcoholism, you name it. That's real, when you are hooked on drugs or cocaine. I'm not going to deny that. But people get past that. Once the detox, as hard as it is, you can get past that. But if you never resolve, the mental side of it, why you are turning to that that drug, or in this case, sugar, your choice of drug, why you are coming to that for comfort, you will not resolve. And so that's also what we work on in the course, is getting to your why, like why you're turning to that. And so much of that is conditioning from our upbringing, from our childhood. You 2 years old, you fall down, you scrape your knee, and your mom comes over, she gives you a warm hug, and she gives you a chocolate chip cookie that came out of the oven. And now you make that association to your mother's love. Yes, exactly, to the cookie.
Yeah.
So you're now home, you're 40 years old, you had a bad day at work, and you just wish your mom was hugging you, and you think, I'm going to make some cookies, and you want those cookies, And like we talked about at the beginning, you mentioned everywhere with bombardment from, advertisers. They're so great at getting you tricked and fooled on that packaging and their commercials, and they will tap in with their commercials, an emotion to that food.
Oh, the picture.
Oh my gosh.
Right? The sitting in front of the fire or watching the Super Bowl, whatever it may be.
Exactly. I saw one Oreo commercial for, going off to college, and all about, gender specific and, if you love, your child and you'll embrace your child no matter who they are by giving them an Oreo, and you can have that tough conversation because Oreos, you're sharing an Oreo cookie. I mean, they getting you everywhere. So it's understanding, bringing awareness is, the second step to, being able to get past this and to change your lifestyle. Without awareness, nothing can happen. You will continue to live in autopilot and just go through your life responding instead of reacting. And mindset is crucial. What we say to ourselves, our language creates our reality. So it's like we have to choose wisely what we're saying. If we keep saying, oh, it's so hard to kick sugar, I can't do this, you're just going to keep reinforcing that. You've got to create that new identity of a healthy person, a healthy woman who wants to and can kick sugar, maybe even before you have done it, so that you start to believe it and start incorporating that into your life.
It's so important. So one thing to remind everyone, that if you haven't really identified, I say this about money, but it's the exact same thing about our food and what we put in our bodies. What you believe has typically been caught by someone else in your life.
Yes.
Right? Like if you haven't actually done the work to see, wait a minute, how do I want to show up?
Right.
Like, is this really making me sick? Like all the data supports that even if I continue down this path, that it's not going to be something good. So is eating this thing getting me closer to how I want to show up in life or further away?
Yes.
Right? And then it's just making the conscious choice. Like don't judge it. Don't have guilt or shame around it. Just choose what's going to get you closer to the identity of who you want to be.
Yeah.
Like for me, when I really chose to, I don't want to eat that lifestyle. I don't want that lifestyle. Like all the information is there to support that it's not healthy.
Correct.
Right? So it's like, okay, it's just part of my identity. It's like, I think any parent listening, like you just choose, like you either spank your kids or you don't. It doesn't mean that you don't want to spank them sometimes, even if you don't, but it's a choice that you make, and that's who the identity is of that person in the moment. What is your identity about the food you put in your body? Like you, I've been plant-based for 25 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't even think about it. Like that's not an option.
Exactly.
Like to then go back, because it's not that I judge other people who do it. It's just not an option for me.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
So same thing with sodas and aspartame.
Smoking. I never was a smoker.
Right.
I mean, I point that out to women all the time, who, or like, oh, I would never smoke. That's disgusting. Why? Why is it different for the person who is, an addicted smoker? It's like you made that choice. You made that distinction, and you don't think twice about it. So it's proof you can do it. It's all in our mind and how, we are viewing, sugar or food in that matter. I love in your book, also, I mean, every time I kept reading it, it's like I just wanted to change the words wealth to health.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's so related.
It is so related.
Yeah.
Everything, that it's like when you're trying to learn, money management and to create wealth, monetary wealth in your life, it's the same way with the health in your life, having that abundance of health and wealth with health is that, people who are extremely sick right now, just like how you talk about with money, you had bad habits, with your money and, you're in a lot of debt. It's like, so you've got a lot of weight on your body or you've got a lot of medications. You can change that, but you can't do it overnight.
That's right.
It's like there's no quick rich scheme and there's no, like quick diet that miracle diet that it's going to happen. It takes time and it takes self-discipline, which is very empowering.
Yes.
I also really teach how positive self-discipline is. And so many people misconstrue that word and think that there's somehow that it's negative, like somehow I'm being disciplined or punished. And the words are very different. When you look up the definition of self-discipline, it is to, be able to hold power over yourself and to act out with the intentions that you set forth, that you want, that you believe in, without like faltering. I mean, and owning your power. That's powerful.
Like, think of that. I know, to me, that's where I get probably the most, that's something I take pride in, that I'm super self-disciplined, and I've been forever. And I think that rather than it being a bad thing or a restriction, it's like it shows you who you really are. And for me, like when I would be around other people that were indulging in all, it's almost like it challenged me a little more, which made me a little more proud when I didn't do it.
Right.
So rather than thinking like, well, everybody else is doing, what if you just flipped the script and you chose differently, and then other people were inspired by what you do and how you show up? And so I love this conversation. I think it's really ties to, what our health is, really relates to our bank account. Like actually, the last podcast interview we were just doing, we were talking about multi-millionaires that are completely out of shape. They have the Rolex, but they have like a big roly-boly belly at the pool and all of that stuff. And it's like, what if we focused on both? Like, what if we didn't just go all in on one obsession, and we really tried to be more well-rounded, where we focused on building wealth and building relationships and building our health and just being an overall better person. Because I think where people get tripped up in life and when they start to make bad decisions is when they go all in on one thing.
Correct. Yeah, I agree.
They neglect all of the other things in their life. So I love this conversation. I love what you're doing. I'm obviously super glad that you were the one that was selected for the grant.
Me
and
too.
Please let everyone know. I mean, now you have more money to even do more things. So let them know, how can they at least continue this conversation? Do you have something that they can maybe start, find out more information on what's next? I know you have an ebook that gives a lot of great information. So tell us where they can find that.
Yeah. I have a free Sugar Sleuth toolkit. It's a great way to get started with me. And I'll give you the link so then people can just enter their email. We'll send it right to their inbox. And it teaches them all about how to read sugar, labels, where sugar is lurking. I mean, they're going to be shocked at some of the stuff that I show them, particularly in beverages. If they just cut out that one thing, beverages, from the soda to the Starbucks to the Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, there are some drinks out there that have, just one drink, a Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks drinks has 186 grams of sugar in one.
186?
186 in one drink. Now, be it it's the large, but I see plenty of people walking out of there with that large drink.
And there's another little thing that's hidden in there. Even when you get almond milk, their almond milk has sugar in it.
I know.
So it's lurking. Spaghetti sauce. So it's in so many things. And it just racks up those calories. And then I think people get frustrated because they're trying to be healthy, or they're walking more, they're doing. And it's like, why can I not kick this? And it's because of all these little sneaky things that they do to us. So anyone that drinks Starbucks, just remember all of their milks are sweetened.
They are. Yeah, I mean, I drink almond milk, but I buy it, at home from the grocery store for myself that has, 0 sugar in it. So it's possible. You just get unsweetened vanilla. Doesn't taste any different.
Throw a stevia in there. I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm a stevia person.
No, stevia is fine. So, monk fruit, pure monk fruit is fine. Definitely. Unrefined sugars, are fine. If you say you're never going to have another cookie again, you're just setting yourself up for failure. That's the diet mentality, the all, or nothing mindset that gets us in that blame and shame cycle. So it's like, learn to cook and bake for yourself. Bake yourself then a healthy alternative. I can bake a banana bread that has, 1 tablespoon of honey in the whole banana bread that's sweetened with the bananas and the tablespoon of honey. And that's plenty. And it's delicious, So there are alternatives. So the Sugar Sleuth toolkit that, your listeners can grab will talk about all of that. It will also give the 61 different names of sugar. And then it will also give them the opportunity if they want to get the audiobook. I have an audiobook that's available for just $5. So it gives them a chance to learn more about me in the course. Yeah.
Awesome. And if they want to find you online, is there a website?
Yes, ikickedsugar.com.
Great name. Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll link all the information up on the show notes, guys, so you know where to go. And of course, as we say, the way you treat your body, your health, your mindset, all of that links to your bank account, your net worth. So go follow Joyce, get all the information. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me,
We can't wait to see what you do with this money.
Me too.
All right. Till next time, guys, keep investing and keep building that wealth. See you soon.